The 9 Years Podcast.
Alright everybody, welcome to episode 60 of the 9 Years Podcast. Episode 60, 6-0, quite a milestone for us on the show. In reality, it's only one either side of 59 or 61, but for some reason when you hit that even number, people make an anniversary out of it. So happy 60th to us, myself, Nick Draper, and my co-host Stuart Deakins. Stu, how are you this week?
Fabulous.
Beautiful word. You've been fabulous before, I think, though.
And I can't think of anything else. Like the one words do me in, really. If I get a couple words, then I'll be alright. But the one words would be fabulous.
Fabulous. Thank you very much for listening to this week's show, whether it be on iTunes, YouTube, or 9yrespodcast.org. Fascinating interview coming up this week with Mark Robinson and Jeremy Sauer of our Academy, along with all the other usual nonsense. And speaking of nonsense, having gone on a school trip this week with my class of 9 and 10-year-olds, the biggest topic of conversation, which you'd have hoped would have been about the actual trip and the topic and the subject that we're studying, but never mind, was killer clowns. Stu, have you been dressing up in clown costumes and attacking people?
No, I don't really need to do that, to be fair. I'm quite mature. I don't have to go around in clown outfits. I've not seen any. I do hear apparently last time around in Crawley, but I get confused if they are just Crawley Town fans anyway.
You can't really tell the difference, can you?
No.
But thank you very much for our first mention of To Be Fair this week. Took about 80 seconds, I think. Which brings me nicely to our top 7 lists.
Superb.
Can I go first this week?
Of course you can.
Okay, great. It is the top 7 anagrams of the phrase to be fair. I have gone for boat fire, a brief to, oat fibre, fear obit, orate fib, fiat robe, and finally irate fob.
Random as ever, mate. Random as ever.
Your top 7?
Well, as it's Neal Ardley's anniversary, a 4-year anniversary, I thought I would do his top 7 signings. In no particular order. Now, these signings can be either loan signings or permanent signings, just to clarify. So, my first one is Barry Fuller in May 2013 from Barnet. Gary Alexander in the January transfer window, which was a loan deal from Crawley Town. Jonathan Meads from Oxford, permanent transfer in June 2015. Lyle Taylor from Scunthorpe, again in the same summer. Darius Childs, the loan signing from March. From Burton, Bayer and Femra in May 2014 from Gillingham, and who can forget Adam Bennett, the magical signing, loan signing. Well, actually, no, it wasn't a loan signing. It was actually a free transfer from Cheltenham in that magical transfer window that probably saved us from relegation.
No, Ben Wilson.
Top signings, mate. Top signings.
He was a top signing. Thank you very much, Stu.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Green, author of Paper Towns, and when I'm not watching the Ellen DeGeneres Show or WWE Wrestling, I listen to the 9 Years Podcast on iTunes.
Now, technical difficulties have befallen the podcast this week in terms of a little bit of a microphone problem on my end. So if we're not up to the usual high-quality audio standard that we are, then I do apologise. It's my fault. It will be fixed for next week, but I promise you, during our interview with Mark and Jeremy later, crystal clear audio, and it really is a fascinating interview. So we are very excited about broadcasting the first part of it today, but we do have all the usual features, as we mentioned earlier. We're going to be looking at the Oxford game, Poleon Go, look ahead to the Swindon game next week as well. This week, though, we're going to start talking about Neal Ardley, as Stu mentioned moments ago. It is his 4-year anniversary of being in charge at the club. Of course, that's also the 4-year anniversary of Neil Cox being assistant manager. I'm not sure, Stu. I'm not sure if he's the man to take us forward. I'm not sure he's doing a great job, to be honest.
Well, not really, is he? I just feel that we should be further along in our journey by now, surely. Do you know what I mean? He's got some catching up to do, hasn't he?
Well, we haven't won a cup, for instance. Like the FA Cup. Not good enough.
Or the League Cup. We even got past the first round of the League Cup. That's not good, is it?
Exactly. So when do you think we're going to sack him?
Well, I'm sure after if he goes on a run of 5 games, without a win, then I'm sure. We have some fans who were calling for his. Even as early as 5 games into this season, weren't we? Was he the right man? And look how quickly he's turned it around already. So he's doing a great job.
It was somewhat ridiculous that having just got promoted last season, overachieving in doing so. But yeah, a not brilliant start to the season, had people questioning him already, but I think we can firmly put those questions to bed. And reading an interview with him in one of the evening newspapers in London this week, must mention the fact you do forget he's in his first job as a first-team manager. Sometimes you get the opinion that someone is made or born to do a particular job.
It's scary, isn't it? Because, when he joined us in 10th of October 2012. He was. I think he was the only choice, wasn't he? He was in. I think he got to a shortlist with Rob Page, who now is. I'm trying to think. He's a manager now, isn't he? In League One. I'm trying to think.
Northampton, is he?
Where he is, Northampton Cobblers. That's the one. So when you think about it, he had good grounding in the Cardiff Academy.
Neal Ardley, not Robert Page.
Neal Ardley, of course, not Robert Page. And you go back to when he first joined. You actually have to remember what a mad season that first season was. And he talks about that in an interview, doesn't he? About probably his greatest achievement was that first season. Yeah,
with the squad that we had, the card he was dealt with that team, we thought we were down, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, and even when you look at, I'm just reading back through now, I was running through the first year. When you think about, he had, my top 7 had that magical signing of Alan Bennett, do you know what I mean, in the transfer window. But we also forget he was a man, he actually was dealt with the short straw really of being drawn away to franchise. In a cup game. So he also had that to deal with in his first season as manager. That was televised, so he went straight into the Lion's Den as such, not there because there's no den there at all and they're not frightening him. But he had to deal with all the press and everything like that. So I think that first season really put him in good stead for the seasons to come.
The irony of that Milton Keynes game being, of course, that finances from that game and television coverage did help us out in being able to add to the squad that season, buying some players, others of which you have mentioned earlier, that were pivotal in keeping us in the Football League that year.
Yeah, but let's be fair, we were on TV on our own merit. We weren't because of them, really, to be fair. We, as I've just said, to be fair, about 3,000 times already. But the story is us, and that's still the story, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? But, Joe, I was just looking his stats, because on Wikipedia, they actually do keep a running total. This will be interesting for the statisticians view out there. He has... Statisticians, that's a word, isn't it?
Statisticians. I don't know, it sounds wrong to me for some reason, but I'm pretty sure that's correct.
It is, and I'm not one to correct your English, but I think it is correct. He has been manager for Wimbledon for 200... This is before the Oxford game, actually. No, the 9th of October it's up to, so it would include Oxford. 208 games played, won 72, drawn 60, and lost, believe it or not, 76. So has a win percentage of 34.6%. That's quite mad when you look at it like that, because most other clubs would have sacked him by now, because that's not really a great win percentage, is it?
No, I think we were hamstrung, or he was in those stats, by second half of the seasons following the loss of an informed striker. 2 seasons in a row, and our form after Christmas fell away because of that.
Yeah, and you're correct. And the thing he did allude to was the fact that he has been given tremendous support from our basically Eric, Ida, David, all supported him very well with money, as you rightly just said. But when you look back at that percentage, there were times when it was rocky and we had fans going, he's not the right person, but we are benefiting by sticking by a manager. 4 years in a job is unheard of nowadays, and I think we're reaping the benefits now from really a poor start, but we're cracking on big time now.
We have certainly acclimatised to life in League One now. Evident, of course, on Sunday, the live Sky game against Oxford. Fantastic 3-1 win. And we scored 4 times. Doesn't often happen, but there we go. What was the key to our win over Oxford on the weekend?
There was loads of things, really. Let's be honest. The referee allowed the game to flow. He set out very early on.
We won because of the referee.
No. I think there's a few factors. I think the referee allowed the game to be a physical game. That no doubt helped us, because if you look at Oxford, have got a decent team. People like Serkin, Maguire in midfield, very good players. But I didn't like it up them. I didn't like the tackles. And I think we set a tone very early on with Tom Elliott. Not that he's our hatchet man, but he took out Dunkley, and it's sort of like one of those things: win your battles, but actually, the referee let loads of things go. That in other games, we could argue that we've been pulled up and it'd been a very bitty game. But the game, we were allowed to be that physical, dominant presence, and realistically, we broke up Oxford. Oxford wanted to play pretty football. We never allowed them to. I thought the midfield areas were the big keys. Played Danny Ball and Jake Reeves, but also Dean Parrott. When he wasn't attacking, he was very much essential. We very much got the midfield area, central midfield area. We won the battles there. And it wasn't a surprise that, the Reeves pass for Bartram was really, again, us breaking the midfield down. We did that all game.
What was our shape then, really, on Sunday? Because, again, Neal made a number of changes. You look like you got a traditional 4-4-2 there with Lyle Taylor and Tom Elliott, with perhaps Dean Parrott playing in a wider right midfield role? Or did Lyle push himself a little bit wider and then have a 4-3-3 with the three men in the midfield?
We did change an awful lot, because there were some times where Lyle was out wide left. I think what we tended to do when we attacked, we got our width. So when we had the ball, Bartram coming a lot from left to in. But I think when we lost the ball, we become very compact. And Lyle, a lot of time, was going out wide and doing the job that side. And Tom Elliott sometimes got a little, not isolated as such, but he sometimes in the end ended up being really like a 4-5-1. We did seem to switch quite a lot, but defensively we were very, very compact in our central areas. And really sort of said, go around the side of us. Oxford's strengths are not out wide. They're more through the middle areas, and in the end we just pushed them out that way and won the battles quite easily in the end.
What do you think of the treatment? Not treatment, that makes it, when people ask that question, they say it's the treatment of such and such, the treatment of Joe Hart, for instance. We're not going down that line at all. But the way that perhaps handles is the correct way to say it, of Dominic Poleon, who has been in outstanding form, but then finds himself on the bench here and there instead of starting the game. Do we know the logic behind the changes?
I don't think anything is. I think the recent interview with Don's player, Dominic Poleon was honest enough and said that we've got 4 forwards here, and the gaffer will play any combination, and it will keep us fresh. We've got lots of games coming up. This week we go into Swindon at home, and then Bury away, Peterborough away. So you've got 3 games in 7 days, and we're going to need a fresh squad. So I don't think he was dropped because of he wasn't playing well. I think generally Neal Ardley's looking at what combinations he can play to keep the squad fresh, to keep the forward pairings fresh, and go from there. So I think that tactically he done it right. Dunkley at the back is a big lump, and Tom Elliott occupied him a lot of the times, didn't let him have any free headers. So you wonder whether it was just, I think what he's looking at game by game and going, that pairing will work, I can freshen up here. But that's the beauty of us having 4 forwards that can easily interchange, and there's no definite pairing, favourite pairing at the moment.
What's going on with Chris Wilkdale? I'm a little bit out of the loop, so I don't know if he's injured or what's happening.
You tell me. It's a difficult one, isn't it? We thought he'd get game time in the Checkatrade game against Plymouth, but he didn't. He was on the bench. We played Tom Beer. We brought everyone else on apart from Wilkdale. So it's a concern, because if you look through his career, he missed from December onwards at Stevenage. Even though I think he was their top goal scorer, or he had 10 plus goals before his injury. But he is known to pick up injuries, and he's picked up niggling ones with us. He's on the bench now, but he's not being played. It's concerning. From what I've seen of him, I like him. He's not the paciest player by any stretch, but he wins balls in the air. He's very good in the final third. But your guess is as good as mine, Nick. I don't know why he's not playing. Maybe
he unveiled a secret love for Watford, and Neal Ardley went, nope, not having you in my team. Let's just ignore the fact that Neal Ardley once played for Watford. So we put that joke to work.
That stifled that one, didn't it?
Yeah, so moving on. Man of the Match poll was another tricky decision for the podcast team. I'm not going to lie. Whilst the discussion was being had about which players to put forward for the Man of the Match poll, I might have been having a nap. So that's basically my way of saying I didn't have a say in this one, so don't blame me. Jake Reeves seemed to get a lot of love, but he did not find his way into our top four, which this week were Darius Charles, Tom Elliott, Danny Borman and Dean Parrott. Again, similar to the week before, in a performance such as this, there are so many names, you could probably arguably put all 11, but anyway, Dean Parrott won our Twitter poll, 36% of the vote, with pretty much 36 votes from roughly 100 people that voted, so thank you very much for taking part in that. Should you fancy some 3-word reports?
We'll do. Can I just very quickly say, actually, my man of the match again was Darius Charles, I won't lie. I thought our back four, even though we didn't look the most comfortable with the ball, we fought for every ball, and some of the last-ditch tackles, but some of the defending by Darius Charles and Robbo, them two have definitely got back the form that they had previously. But yeah, let's do the 3-word report.
And 3 of them. I'll start with Mike Overall. Mike at Mike_Overall, friend of the show. Hoodoo, what hoodoo? Referring, of course, to our failure to beat Oxford since about 1912, which summed up similarly by Zach Thompson at Mr. T. Thompson, who went for Wimbledon's lucky 13th time we've played Oxford as AFC Wimbledon, and we have finally beaten them. Of course, in our days of Wimbledon as Wimbledon FC, we beat Oxford and did it on a number of occasions, but in our current incarnation, we have failed to do that until this past week. And finally, I'm going to reference my dad again, Stu.
What's going on?
I'm going to do his 3-word... Is that not clear? I'm going to do his 3-word report.
Have you shown him how to use Twitter now, have you?
Yes, but I'm not sure about his command of the English language, because he's going to have to explain this to me. I'm wondering if this is a vague Donald Trump reference, but then if it is, I'm not sure of the link. But he's gone for Bucks Team Trumped. Is there a Trump Buckinghamshire? I don't know. But the reason I only say this is because it's a 3-word report. Of course, we are above that franchise, which we're going to come on to very shortly. That's obviously what the angle is going for there. It's just he put trumped in capital letters as if he was shouting, as if there was some link that I'm meant to pick up on, which I haven't done.
You've obviously not shown him how to take the caps lock off on Twitter.
That is possibly what's happened. That's a good point. But thank you very much for all of you for your hashtag Don's 3-word reports. And again, look out for them after the Swindon game this Saturday. But before we move on, as we say, we are above Milton Keynes, and it has generated quite a lot of media coverage, perhaps helped in part by the fact that both teams were live on Sky on Sunday in the absence of Premier League football. But the coverage in all the newspapers and online has been fantastic. It's like the newspapers have realised the scale of the achievement we have made. If they didn't pick it up after promotion to the Football League, if they didn't pick it up after promotion to League One, which in fairness, we got a lot of great coverage on those, and you can check out an article I wrote about that on 9yrspodcast.org. But yeah, they've been falling over themselves to praise us and highlight how far we've come. It was a great moment to see the league table published, that we are above them, and I think it took many people by surprise just how much joy they took from seeing that.
Yeah, I've said to you before, and I think I said on the podcast, I don't want our season to be measured on the 2 games against them or where they're on the league, because I don't really say I don't care about them. Of course, they're doing our league, and you want us to finish above them. You want to see them lose. You want to see them go bust, that sort of thing. I'd rather see them go lose and then go bust, but that sort of side of it. But yeah, I was surprised actually in my own enjoyment of it. Of course, the trick is not to make too much of a song and dance about it, because the league can change so quickly. But I think it's just symbolic. This isn't it isn't after 1 game or 2 games. This is after 12 games of the season. So what are we, quarter of the way through? We're looking about that, 46 games. Yeah, about. So it's not after the first game or something. It's after a significant period. The good thing and there's 2 good things actually. One is that they are doing really bad and they look shocking. And I don't really want them to do too badly, because I really want Robinson to be the manager still when he turns up at our place, because I think he deserves a bit of Wimbledon love, let's say it that way. But also our form is amazing, and to go into 10th place now, I've gone for the first time looking above where we are to see where the playoffs are to going looking down the bottom, which for me is quite good because I was very worried after 5 games.
As I think we all were, but as you say, we have acclimatised to League One football and we are motoring whilst another team seems to be stuttering and really struggling to find their feet after relegation last season. But enough about them. Let's concentrate, as you say, Stu, on our successes, as you did on TalkSport this week.
I did, mate. I did, yes. It seemed to go okay.
Who did you speak to, for those who have not heard it? What was the show and what were you doing?
Yeah, so it was a sports bar. It's a TalkSport sports bar, which is from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. in the morning. I was speaking to Jason Cundy and Perry Groves, who were doing that. So, yeah, it was good. It was a late show. The good thing for us is that, we got loads of publicity on the podcast, which is great that we were selected by TalkSport to talk on behalf of the Wimbledon fans. So that was really encouraging. They were very. We have released it on our social media. I'm sure we would replay that again and again. But Jason Cundy, a local, I had heard he was a local boy, and I think Perry Groves is also. So they both know the Wimbledon story very well. Thankfully, I didn't really want to go too much on the Milton Keynes side of it. Of course, the reason why they wanted us on was because we were above them. But managed to talk about everything that was going well, and also remembered that I'd seen a very early Perry Groves goal against Wimbledon in my early days, which he reminded me about.
In 1964, I think.
In black and white. It was. But no, it was good. It was nice to chat to him. And yeah, like I say, very, very flattered that the podcasts were approached, and I was fortunate enough to go on and chat to him at the unearthly hour. I think it's about 12:30. I was due on at 15:15, but because Gareth Southgate stupidly had put Wayne Rooney as not a captain anymore, it overrun them talking about the Wayne Rooney situation. So I followed that.
Because he didn't put him as captain anymore.
Yeah, a bit backward, isn't it?
You did do a great job though, Stu, I must say. It came across really, really well, having listened back to it. And yeah, we'll try and... It is on our Facebook page, but we will try and get it up on 9yrspodcast.org as well. So bear with us with that one and keep an ear out if you've not heard that interview. It was great. What was also great was our interview this week, Stu, with Jeremy Sauer and Mark Robinson of the Academy. And we talk about the progress we've made as a football club in 14 years. For me, we can talk about league positions and being above Milton Keynes and all that business. Nothing, for me, shows how far we've come in such a short space of time greater than the Academy. We'll talk about it during the interview, but it just blows you away, doesn't it, Stu, when you go down there and you see all these teams performing to a very high level with very, very high levels of coaching and very high levels of pride in the shirt and the kit that they're wearing.
Yeah, I tend to go down there quite a bit because it just, even when you're losing, it just brings you back to the fact of the future is very bright. I know as fans we sometimes react game by game, but when you go down there, and I do say to people, get down there Saturday and Sunday. Saturday or Sunday, have a look at on Twitter. They normally advertise when the games are, of course, on our official site, but. If we do lose one weekend, we're going to lose. We're going to lose 20 in the season. We're not going to be unbeaten. Of course we're not. But just get yourself down there. It's so refreshing. And I have to say, Nick, I don't know about you, but it was probably it was a highlight interview-wise. We've been fortunate enough to interview some really good. We've interviewed Lyle Taylor, Jake Reeves, John Green. We've interviewed loads of people, but I have to say this is probably my most favourite because it was just so refreshing to see what happened down there.
You're right, we have been very fortunate, as you say, to interview lots and lots of key people involved with the club over the years, like Terry Brown, Dave Anderson, Danny Kedwell, don't forget, all these great names. Who would you say has probably been the worst interview we've had, though?
Chris.
My brother Chris.
That's the one.
Yeah, definitely, I would have to say the same, actually. Anyway, it was a fantastic interview with Mark and Jeremy. We could have talked for hours. We did talk for over an hour, so we're going to break it up into 2 shows for you. This is the first half of our interview. We talk about EFL Trophy, player development, younger players assisting the elder players, and a few coaching stories as well from their time on coaching courses and the FA and the FA's philosophy on where we're going with our coaching. So lots of subjects to be touched on. It's a great listen. You will enjoy, I promise you. So Stu and I have just been down watching the under-18s at the training ground this morning, Saturday morning. Mark Robinson lost 3-1 to Leyton Orient today. What were your thoughts on the
not just me. Wasn't
not
just me.
not just you, obviously. But,
I thought we started quite bright because we started very slowly recently, and we talked about that. Then yet again conceded a very cheap goal from a player that should know better. And then the reaction wasn't really good enough. Then they obviously got the second. And then the last 15 minutes of the first half, I thought we really stepped it up. The intensity was good, the pressing was good, got the goal, and looked like we were going to go on to get the second. And then for 25 minutes in the second half, I thought we were excellent, to be honest. I keep saying we've got talent in the squad, and I maintain that. The problems we got is just having a bit of lack of leadership. That doesn't mean that they couldn't play at a higher level. You know, that's the things they've got to gain. But I thought for 25 minutes we were really, really good. Should have got the second, but then unfortunately we give away a sloppy third. I don't know, with 10, 15 to go, and that's been the story of our season. But it's a challenge. I maintain we've got talent in there, and I think you would have seen that today, that we've definitely got talent in there. Players that are as good as theirs, if not better. It's just the group mentality thing. But when you're at under 18 level, you kind of don't really handpick leaders, and that you just pick good players. And sometimes the mix is spot on, sometimes the mix isn't. At the moment, the mix isn't great in terms of mentality, but we'll keep chipping away, and we will get there sooner rather than later.
You mentioned the talent in the squad, which we did see. There was a couple of players that were involved with the first team in the week, and then featuring today as well. How does it strike the balance there between playing between the two teams? Yeah,
it's hard. Jeremy and I talked about. So Paul was on the bench, obviously for the first team, Paul Callenby, and we said, coming back down to 18s, it becomes a mentality thing. But we've also got to ensure they're having enough game time. So if he didn't play for me today, as you notice, he only got 60 minutes. It would have been 2 weeks without a game. So we've got to get that balance. And if I'm honest, I don't think him stepping down to the 18s is an excuse for him to not perform. I think he needs to have a mentality, whatever level he's playing, whether it's with me, which is a different kind of challenge because it's quite frenetic and quick, and he gets different challenges. I think he's got to have the mentality to be at the top of his game, whether he's playing for me, 21s, or obviously when he gets a chance with the first team. So I don't think it's an excuse, whatever level he's playing at, really.
Do you expect him to be getting more first team chances this season, or is that
if he plays like he did second half and the end of the first half? Yeah, there's no reason at all. Paul's a real talent. I think everyone knows that, and we would love to think that maybe he'd get his chance on the bench. He's still only 17. People got to remember. So
he doesn't look it.
He doesn't. No, that's the thing, and it's very easy for even me to forget that sometimes. He's still only a second year scholar and 17. So. We'd love to think that he might get on the bench, but to me, it's irrelevant in terms of his pathway. I think he will get there sooner or later, and that's the main thing.
Superb. So, if we do a bit of background to people, obviously will know you at the Academy. You've been here many, many years.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been now? Actually, how long have you been at Wimbledon now?
No, Joe, I think it's 11. I'll try. If I go back to. So the first group of boys I had was obviously Ryan Sweeney and that group. So they were 8. So they're 19 now. So yeah, it's about 11 years. Obviously, I wasn't full time then. I was just a volunteer. Did my first session down at the park by Corinthian Casuals Ground. And that was with Ryan and Callum Wilson and loads of Billy Frost and lots of other players that went on to be the English champions. And I was just a volunteer then. Bumped into a friend of mine, Tony Wilson, who I was at Fulham with, and he just said, I really want to start coaching more. And I went down and volunteered. And honestly, I forget now when I actually. I kind of did that for 2-3 years, and then Nigel saw me coaching at a game and asked me if I wanted to head up the under-18s, which I did. And then by that time, Jeremy had already come in then, because I think those boys were kind of about under-13 by then, and or under-12, and Joe would come in then with the little uns and started doing his stuff with the little uns. And I kind of set it all up at under-18 level. We started at the college there down at Merton, and that's the first time we'd had a full education programme. So the boys become sort of full-time, with the education and the football. We were in the Conference Youth Alliance then, so the first team would have probably been
bumped into someone the other day, didn't you?
Yeah, bumped into someone the other day from that, and they would have been Conference South. I think we would have been Conference South, just coming out of the Ryman Prem.
Yeah.
So and it's just obviously kicked on from there. Yeah. Through, I'll let Gel. I'm still Gel's funded, but obviously we've had many changes since then.
Yeah, because we've been joined by Jeremy Sauer as well, and we've been chatting to Jeremy as well over the course of today. We were saying earlier, actually, when you mentioned 11 years ago, so we're talking 2004, 2005, and just when we come down to a day like today, we've got all the teams playing, everyone fully kitted out, everyone attracted, everything like. We'll go through the journey from how we got from there to here, obviously, in a minute, but does make you realise just the scale of what's been achieved here in such a short space of time.
No, it's incredible. Again, I don't want to steal Jeremy's thunder, but he always comes up with a great analogy. When I was here, the kids were running around in Chelsea, Man United, Arsenal shirts, Sunday League football. And, that is what it was. All the managers were parents. I kind of think I was the first coach that come in and wasn't a parent. And, you look back then and the changes have been unbelievable. And I know Wimbledon have always had a fantastic youth system. I was reading something the other day about the squad, but it is very different challenges. I don't think people realise, because we've had to continuously play catch up with the first team, and academy football's very much changed. So when I was at Fulham as a kid, you could go to Wimbledon, Fulham, and there wasn't a lot of difference. Wimbledon actually had a great name. I actually come and did a week down there with Dario Grady because Johnny Gannon was a mate of mine. And Wimbledon was a better choice because you was at Richardson Evans. At Fulham, we trained at a school. So, there wasn't that big trade-off that you've got now. I mean, now at academies, Jeremy and I have had to keep our best players from going to places, and it's like, well, they were actually paying to play for AFC Wimbledon, or you could go to Fulham and whatever. And, so it's I think people don't appreciate that sometimes, to keep our best players, and the challenge you've had when the clubs we got on our doorstep was remarkable. But then every time we think we were getting somewhere, the first team would get promotion again, and we go, okay, now we've got to try and produce conference level players. So the journey's been great. And then you look today, you've seen all the boys kitted out. I don't know if you noticed, but we had the under-11s observing my under-18 game. That's something we do that was a great idea by Michael Hamilton. So the boys come in. They all get an under-18 player. We send them down on their own to find them. They find out that their player's PDT, which is their personal development target. But this is all run by the under-11s. We don't have any staff there, so they go and talk to the 18s boys. They sit there, nurture them, tell them what their targets are, and then they watch the game and they come in and listen to my half-time team talk. And again, it's just that thing of trying to indoctrinate every player into the Wimbledon way. And obviously you heard my team talk, and I got into the boys a little bit.
Yeah.
And so as a 10, 11-year-old, they're hearing that already, and it's part of, and you talk to these lads after, and it's phenomenal some of the stuff that they come out with, they're 10, 11 years age, and that's how we try and build the passion and the environment for the club.
It's interesting, and thank you for letting me stand over there, because I must admit, the team talk was really, really. I love I'm very much a tactical person. Okay. So, the Monday night football, I love that. My fiance always says, "What are you watching that for?" But I love that side of it.
Yeah,
I found it really interesting the way that you basically asked a lot of the team what the problems were. You didn't necessarily go and feed them all the information.
Yeah,
is that something you want to try and build, that they understand what mistakes they're making, rather you tell them all the time?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the big thing, especially with this group I've got now. So last year we got to a stage where they had great understanding. So the half-time team talk might be just a bit of a knee-jerk from me, as in I need to get into them because it's not the standards required. This group's very different, and it's the same with younger. They need to understand themselves. If I just spark orders on the line, then basically they're just being robotic, and that's no good. So they need to show understanding. They need to be able to carry that out. So, all the way through our training, we do that. We want everyone to take ownership of their own learning, and we feel our job as educators is to steer them in the right way. But if you just keep giving them the answers all the time, I don't want to sound over the top, but it doesn't become intrinsic, and it needs to be intrinsic. It needs to be something that they do naturally, and that's the problem we've got now with this group. For 30 minutes out there, you saw them starting to do it naturally, but if they have a little bit of failure, it drops off. So it's something we're massive on, is self-learning.
But we're getting better at it as well. So the example that Mark used earlier, the under-11s, we weren't doing that 5-6 years ago when Mark's under-18s were under-11s. Yeah. So now we're placing more ownership on the younger ones. And I know, when they get to him in a few years' time, that won't need to happen so much. Yeah. We'll have already developed them better socially, psychologically. They'll already taken that ownership, and they'll be doing it naturally. It'll be second nature to them. So we're kind of learning, and we're evolving all the time with that,
So I'll give you an example. I've given Paul Callenby his feedback. So his little under-11 centre-back was giving his feedback. So there, Paul, and the first thing he said is, oh, God, can't believe the detail in there. So he's laughed and he shot his went, blimey, how much detail has he got? And that's, as Jeremy said, that's stuff that we're doing, all the time.
When you played under 18s, do you try and match the first team's formation, etc., and stuff like that, and the style of play? Because I noticed when I was looking on the academy site, on the official site, there's all about transitions and stuff like that. Yeah. Do you try and match the first team style so they go in a natural journey?
Yeah, to a certain extent, not as much as Reezy would with the 21s, because I think it's really good that players have a understanding of all formations, because as much as our dream is for players to play for our first team, also you've seen with Swindon and that the players can go on and play for other clubs. That's part of it, as much as Jeremy I would rather than play for us. Selling players is part of it. So I think you've got to give players a full education, because they could go from us as a centre half and then go and play as a 3 or playing different. So I feel my role is to give them more formations, but at the same time I'm very mindful of what they need to do if they go to Reezy and what they need to do if they go first team. So I've got a lad called Anthony Hartigan at the moment in midfield who I rate highly, but he's got to be able to play in a 2, and at the moment he's not quite there, because he was used to just sitting and dictating play, and now I need more from him. So it's a bit of a balance in that. So they've got to have that education for me for different formations, because the gaffer has changed formations, as you know. He's played 4-3-3, so that's really important anyway. But at the same time, we've got to make sure we've got players that are getting their needs ready to go up to Reezy, or fingers crossed if they go into the first team.
Mm-hmm. So Jeremy, just going to yourself. So how long, you've obviously been here quite a long while as well, how long have you been here?
Well, I think Rhys Williams-Bowers, who's the second year you watched today, I was coaching him when he was under 8, so that was probably 2006, 2007, something around that time, so 9-10 years as well. So similar to Robbo, that started part-time. I was actually not working for Wimbledon, I was working for a coaching company, and they got me in to do some coaching. They were parent managers at the time. And from there, I kind of evolved the role a little bit and got more involved. Nigel Higgs, who Mark talked about earlier, invited me in to do more, and I was actually just running the junior academy. We've given it so many different names over the years. That was under 7s to under 11s, and so that was my little baby at the time, and I was doing that part-time. And then, I think we probably met in the middle, didn't we? You were doing the top end, the older boys, I was doing the younger boys. In 2011, the club got promoted to the Football League, and we had a few weeks, literally a few weeks, because it was playoffs, obviously, until we had to put our application in to become a Centre of Excellence, which was then, it was actual formal academy. We had the boys on contracts, we weren't non-league, we didn't need to play in the grassroots leagues that were around us. They become an academy, so we had 6 weeks to do that.
6 weeks it was,
and it was a massive.
It seems a thing with this club. I think we always had 6 weeks to do it.
Yeah, 6 weeks.
When I started the under 18s, Nigel went, "You've got 6 weeks." 6 weeks seems the thing.
And then since 2011, it's been a formal academy, so the boys have been in contracts. But we literally took everyone that was in grassroots the season before that and put them on a contract. They were Centre of Excellence players. At the time, we had some age groups that were better than others, but we've evolved every year. We've improved every year. We went through a big audit process called the EPPP, which is kind of coming up again next year, and that's crucial to us getting our funding. We're given money which sort of filters down from the Premier League, essentially. And that was in 2013-14 season. We then formalised as a Category 3 academy. We've all changed our roles a little bit to adapt to that. You've been Academy Manager, I've been Head of Coaching. We've swapped and changed a little bit. I think we've found a bit of stability over the last couple of years with all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think to be honest, that's one of our strengths. I don't want to sound, but I think we've got no egos, really, so we do what's best for the club. So I was Academy Manager, and then it was quite clear with the EPPP that wasn't going to work, because I'm out on the field, Gerald's in the office, so it doesn't matter about that. It's about doing what's right for the club. So it was right for Jeremy to be Academy Manager, which makes him the figurehead, which I haven't got a problem with, and I'm out on the field. So we've always done what's right for the club, and we share it anyway. So we've always done what's the best for the club.
We've always looked at it. It took a few years for Robbo and I to come together with our thought process on football, but we've got to know each other particularly well now, and I think it's all second nature to us now, really. And I think we're at a point now where, like Robbo said, we haven't got ego. We're just always looking at what's best for the boys. That's the most important thing. So when we're employing a coach, it's what's best for the boys. When we're talking about the next audit, we've got to tick boxes for the audit, but what's best for the boys? And that's how we do it. And that's every year we've got to look at. We're not going to get given a pot of money to spend on another 3 full-time staff. That's not going to happen at this club. That's okay. We need to think outside the box and work out how we can improve and add a little bit to our programme. So this year, just last week, we had the Southfields Academy launch, so we're at a new college now for the boys, which has been great, and that means that Robbo's got more facilities to work with the under-18s boys, more contact time, etc. So those little things we're always looking at each season. How can we improve? How can we move forward? And that's the journey, and I'm really proud of that. We pride ourselves on being learners and not having an ego, and making sure that we can self-evaluate it properly and move forward. We've done that quite well, haven't we, over the years? Yeah.
So what got you interested in coaching and academy? How'd you get involved in it?
I'm a Crystal Palace fan.
I hear pretty grapevine. I did have that.
I'll kill myself there. So I used to work there as well. I've always worked with kids. I've never played professionally. When I came out of full-time education, I was running businesses. I had my own business, so I kind of learned, I suppose, a little bit about the business side on that sort of stuff, and that's helped me now with the stuff that we do now behind the scenes, off the grass, behind a computer. So all that sort of stuff's really helped me. My passion's always been about developing potential, and that's always been a thing. So my role has changed a little bit from becoming a coach, which is what I was 3 years ago. I was coaching more regularly, to becoming a manager. So now developing potential, I'm doing that via coaches and staff down towards the players. So it's been a learning curve for me on that front. So yeah, that's my passion really, developing potential, and I only ever want to be at a place or a club doing a job where I know that there's potential for those players to grow. So if we were at a club, or I was at a club, that didn't have that pathway, I don't think I'd do the job. I'm not here for the money. I'm doing it because I care, and I give a crap about the boys and who they become. And I'm pretty sure that's the same for Robert, without speaking for you there, mate.
Does that help your relationship as well then? Because obviously you've done coaching and stuff like that, so you sort of know.
Yeah.
Does that help your relationship in terms of coaching and sort of working together?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like the early years, Joe, and the thing is, we've always been quite open with each other, the more time we spent with each other. So we didn't, I wouldn't say you would say different philosophies, but in terms of coaching techniques, Jeremy had different styles of coaching. I used to go and watch his Littons, and I had my own thoughts on things. But then over a period of time, we kind of realised that the perfect mix was a mix, and there's no right way, because if there was one right way, everyone would do it. Yeah. So I've seen things from the way Joe works with the younger players, and that you need to do it, and you can incorporate with older players. And then Joe, over time, I think he's seen, because I'm a big believer in certain amount of repetition, and he's seen that as well. And it's been great, but you can't have that unless you got an open environment where you as I said, with no ego. So we've discussed everything, and I think we're at a place now where we're the best we've ever been on it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we look at our groups every year, and they're better than they were the year before, and that's all you want,
Yeah.
So Ryan Sweeney's, Will Nightingales, who've been making, Tom Beers, who've been making first team appearances. They're of course good potential, but still we look lower down, and the program that those boys are getting, that Tom Beers, Will Nightingales weren't getting, and they're getting a better program now. So as long as we're still attracting good potential, which we know we are, I think Mark's FA Youth Cup run last year really helped our reputation and kind of formalised it. I think people have started to realise that it's not just a little tin pot academy down the road. They're doing some good things down there. We've had loads of that this summer. Yeah. They're getting a better program younger down, so as they come through the program, we're pretty sure, as long as there's an opportunity at the end of it and they can go and get into the first team, that we'll be producing players for a long time to come, for sure.
The FA Cup run last year, quite an experience, I'm sure, for everyone involved. When you go away to a Newcastle or host a Chelsea here, does it sense like you're going a level up, or does it just was it the experience of being able to go to these Premier League clubs and it was strange, because as an under-18 coach, you don't really get an opportunity to do one downside a lot of 11v11 coaching, because especially at us, because a lot of the boys step up to the 21s quite early, so because Reezy's only got a tiny squad, so you're coaching with 12, 14. So the FAU Cup was the first time as a coach and a manager I'd really got a chance to have 22 players, because Reezy was great. He let me have the players I worked. So firstly there was that side of it, which was great. If I'm honest with you, I wasn't, I didn't think, this is the year we're going to go on a run, but the boys had a real bond, a real good mix of characters, and we got a chance to do our homework, myself and James Oliver Pearce. So we went and watched games for the first time. So Jeremy said, go and watch games. Because the trouble is we're all so busy all the time that sometimes you don't get a chance to do stuff. So we all go out in the evening working as well. And Jill said to me, look, go and watch the game. So that was great. So we got it covered for me. So I went and watched the evening games. And we had a plan. So the biggest thing, we had a plan. We worked on that plan. And all of a sudden, I'd say, once we got like the Watford game, that was the kickstart. And I got there, so I didn't know what to expect. I knew we were good. I knew we were capable of playing good football. But the Watford game, it never ever should have gone to extra time. We were the better side throughout. And after that, there was just a real self-belief in the boys and a real team spirit. And then we went up to Newcastle, and again, first half we should have gone in by their own admission 3 goals up. So we had a little spell there when they equalised, where you thought, is this it? Is it going to end? But what was so great was then they did show the true Wimbledon spirit there. And I remember Mark Jones saying to me, what he loved most, because he come back on the coach with us on the way back, and he was just saying,
that's what it's about. He was so animated because they thought you were going to lie down, but we don't lie down. And this is like 3 o'clock in the morning. and he was just so animated about it. But he was right. There was a 15-minute spell where, no disrespect to these boys now, the game could have got away with us if it was and they just went, no, this isn't going to happen. I remember Paul got one off the line, and then all of a sudden you just saw the tide starting to flow again, and we finished strong, and the winner comes. So that was great. So it was a real lift, and then tell me if I'm going on too long. But then going into the Chelsea game, it was different. I went up to Manchester to watch Chelsea play Man United, and it was live on telly. So I knew the boys were watching. So I drove up there, and Chelsea won 5-1, and it honestly could have been 10. So I kind of...
Marcus Rashford was in that.
Marcus Rashford was playing, and he played for Man United. He had one shot. Yeah. Honestly, he had one shot, and obviously Tammy Abrahams was playing for Chelsea. I think he's the top scorer in the Championship. So I come back and I walked into training the next day, and obviously the boys have all watched it, and the mood was like different, as in, oh my God, like we got to face Chelsea. They've just beat United. So that was great. Again, great challenge for me. So we had a few training sessions, and they were a little bit flat. So I pulled a meeting, and I was just honest with the lads, and we split into groups and said, look, be honest. You've got to be honest. If you don't think we can win this game, stand there. If you think we got half a chance, or if you think we can do it, and literally half the group went, don't think we can do it. There was a few in the middle, and I think there was 3 said, like, we don't give them monkeys. Alfie being one of them said, we're going to win it. But from then, we just kind of built it together, and why we got through, what happened, and the mood just changed. And I know we didn't go on to win the game, but the mood just changed, and I had a week to prepare. And honestly, going into that game, I think the boys honestly thought that they could do it. And we've watched the footage after, and bar a couple of things going wrong at 1-1 when our plan went out the window. I think it was still 2-1 after 84 minutes.
Yeah.
We had half a chance. Obviously, they were a fantastic side. They were European champions as well. But no, it was a great experience for me. The boys will never ever forget it. And I think, as Jeremy said, hopefully for the club, I felt like it gave the club a little bit of a lift at the time, and to play in front of whatever it was, 3,600. It was fantastic.
My experience with it as well, because I was in the stand, so I had a very different experience. But going in at half time to the President's Lounge and seeing all the Chelsea bigwigs there, and the look on their face, because that was 1-1 at half time. The look on their face, they were absolutely bricking it for sure. So that was satisfying for us. It was, and I think they had a scare, and I think they even said when they won it, their toughest game was AFC Wimbledon.
Yeah.
So to hear that from Chelsea, the best academy in the country and possibly Europe, you go, well, we've done all right. Because
it's interesting, because beforehand, a couple who I was speaking to, I know a few people, Trev and that again. You've seen this Chelsea side, and I've done a little bit of research at the time. I thought, actually, I'll put it away because it can scare you, couldn't it?
I think everyone bar one was an international of some sort. So not just under 18, some of them under 21 as well.
Well, it's some have been loaned out. Like Abrahams has gone on loan at Bristol City. He's got 8-11 in the Championship. I was in their captain, Jake Clark-Saw, was on loan at Bristol Rovers. He's in the same Division 1. So it's quite, and they beat PSG 2-1 in the final.
That's right.
So you think about the run, because there was a time where we did get amongst them.
We did.
I think the crowd held a little bit because it sort of drives that in.
What we said was the middle 60, we thought we had them on the ropes a little bit. First 15, it took time for us to get in the game. Last 15, it did get away from us a little bit, maybe last 10 actually. But middle 60, we had them on the ropes, and it was a proper cup tie, wasn't it? The floodlights, the rain, the crowds, and it was good, wasn't it?
We always said half time come a little bit too quick for us actually, because they were definitely rattled at half time of it. But then even that, when we come out second half, it's just key things. I remember Alfie got injured, and I could see. So basically, we had a plan. Doesn't matter, I can say it now. So we knew their strength was out wide. So, and I remember talking to the gaffer about it, and obviously he hadn't seen them. And I said, I'm going to show them in. He said, what? You're going to show Chelsea in? Which is mental, because obviously that's where they are. They pop things. But I said, no, I've watched their wide players, and their crosses are ridiculous, because they had Silva and then Charlie Wakefield. And I said, and they got Tammy Abrahams. He just arrived, and their crosses are pinpoint. So we're going to try and show them in and block them off. And he went, okay, So we had a good chat with the gaffer about it, and it worked. But it was working. They were getting frustrated, and then I just remember Alfie got injured and he weren't recovering. He couldn't get back into the hole, and I remember thinking, I'll take him off, but. I learned from that. I think, hold on, I'm going to take Alfie Egan off here. There's 3,500 people. He scored every round, and I'm going to take him off. And I'm going, Alfie, are you injured? Please. And he's looking at me because he wants to stay on. And we've laughed about it since. But I think if I'd got him off, and put Reece Bowers on, as you said, great energy. And we block that hole, because that's where, if you look, the second goal comes, he cuts in, and we haven't got the extra body there, we haven't got the block. So it just shows you, little things, and then, so, but you can laugh about it now. I wasn't happy at the time.
Did the crowd numbers surprise you? Because I look at the figures, and that was, apart from the final, that was one of the biggest attendances at the whole lot.
Yeah, it was...
Really? Was that right? I hadn't heard that. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked, because I knew it would be decent, but then they just seemed to keep flooding in. And I remember 10 minutes in, it was fantastic. And the atmosphere, it wasn't just that, it was just the whole atmosphere, because, I mean, I always say, the moment I fell in love with this club was when Nigel took me down to a game. And I can't lie, when I first came in volunteer, I didn't really know what it was all about. And then I come to a game, and we just got promotion out of, must have been the Ryman Prem. And I remember everyone singing, I can't help falling in love with you. And my old hair stood up, and I thought, wow, I'm part of something a little bit special and different here. So then, like that, for when the fans started singing that, I think when we went 3-1 down, and I thought, and I remember they all started singing it. It was quite emotional.
It gives us now thinking about it.
Yeah, it does. It was a real emotional moment for me, and it was fantastic. Something I'll never forget.
You didn't smile once though.
No, I didn't.
Minutes. The whole time.
The
The funny thing was we were organising it, because I was obviously helping with David Charles and the club staff about trying to organise a fixture and what we need security-wise and the rest of it. And we literally had no clue what to expect. We knew there would be our people there, families, friends, all the little ones there, but we were thinking maybe 800, 1,000 if we're lucky. So when 3,500 people turn up, that just blows your mind, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's an incredible experience for the players involved to be performing in front of that level. It's mentioning there with the Chelsea team that you're playing, full of internationals and players that have gone on now Championship level and whatever. Where do you stand on the debate then at the moment we're currently having with youth players at the elite level? Now, especially we've got this Checker Trade EFL trophy where they're attempting to get young players playing involved in environments like the 3,500, those sort of real match day atmospheres inside stadiums. Flip side of that then is you've got a Chelsea team that famously are struggling to get academy prospects into first team level. Yeah. Do you think it's a talent issue that players are finding it more difficult and they're having to find other ways to get them that experience? Or do you think we're too far focused on getting players in at the top level,
do you want to go first?
I just think there's 1,000,001 reasons you could be here all day doing that. And there's so many variables. We've got a particular culture in this country that I don't think is always healthy. I don't think we've got the best learners. You get a lot of ex-pros who become first-team managers or academy coaches, and I'm not always sure that they put enough effort into developing a player. You've got too much money in the Premier League, which I think is a huge thing, and you've got a lot of managers under pressure within 6 months of having a job, and all of a sudden playing young players doesn't seem too attractive to them. The Checker Trade stuff, I can see why they're doing it, but again, it's this country trying to copy what another country does and not looking at what we need to do, and I think that's been our biggest downfall in this country, in my opinion. Having said that, even for us, Checker Trade, we've managed to get a debut for Alpha Yegan, that's a positive.
Exactly, yeah.
Luton, I don't know if you saw, Luton's under 18s last year were phenomenal. They got to the quarters, I think, of the FA Youth Cup.
They
smashed the league as well. They put out pretty much an under 20s team. They had 8 or 9 of the lads out there, so that was good for them. I think their manager said he was going to take the fine on the chin and sod the rules sort of thing, because it's what his players need. So I think there's 1,000,001 reasons for it, and I don't think there's anything that the FA can do about it, particularly because the Premier League hold all the aces, and that's the trouble. You've got 3 bodies: Football League, Premier League, FA, and no one's really taking control. The Premier League hold the aces, and the Premier League will do what's best for the Premier League. End of,
I mean, you open a can of worms you can talk about forever. But I think Joe's right. We're struggling to find an identity. We try and copy bits of this and bits of that, and I think we've just got to, as a country, decide what we're going to do, how we're going to develop our young players. But why the money's involved, the perfect scenario to go on every Premier League side, you've got to have a certain amount of homegrown. But straight away people go, but it's a product, will people want to watch it and stuff like that. But I think be brave, and they will watch it eventually. I think they will watch it, and but no one's brave enough to do that. And I include that with the England job. I mean, I thought the last the Euros was the perfect opportunity. There was no expectancy levels. It was the perfect opportunity to play some young players. Go, listen, we're going to have a right old go. We're going to play young players, get rid of the players that are that we seem to obsess a bit and are past it. And I think if you've done that, everyone goes, oh, it's too much pressure in the England job. But they put their own pressure on by doing the same old thing. Just say, we're going to play young players. This is what we'll do. At the end of this competition, we can reevaluate and see where we are. We'll have a look and go, right, are they good enough? Are they not good enough? And I think if everyone done that, the country would have got behind them. And when we got to the knocked out earlier, we'd all gone, okay, we can see where we are. But we didn't.
And it might set you up for the next World Cup.
Set you up for the next World Cup, and then set you up for the next competition. You go, well, he did great. But what we do the same old thing. We paper over the cracks, hope that we're and it just doesn't happen.
What I learned from our EPP experiences, which is what every academy goes through, is that they are assessing you on your own philosophy. So it's not a national philosophy. There's not a DNA that England give you and go, you must develop your under-18 players playing this formation, this profile of player. They go around and they go, right, Tottenham develop their players like this. Do they do a good job of that? Yes, they do. Arsenal will do it one way. Man United will do it another way. Wimbledon will do it completely different. So you've got all these different ways that people are developing their own players, which is fine, and I'm sure they're successful within their own right. But when they come together for the national team, you bring them one from this club, one from that club, another from this club, etc., and they've all been brought up in a very different system from each other, you know.
Yeah.
And that is a problem. And when Germany had their issues in the early 2000s, whatever it is over there, their FA got involved with the academies, and they worked a way of coming together and formalising a plan to develop players together. So all of a sudden, both were benefiting, you know, and that's the difference. We don't have that joined up thinking.
Because they put their quotas in, didn't they? They put 50% quotas in.
Yeah.
Because I remember Jurgen Klopp was on Sky Monday Night Football a while ago, and they were saying that when he was doing his coaching badges, Germany played the same way. But when he went in, actually his style would have been useless. But as it developed and coaching style changed, because obviously now the high press game is what a lot of people play now. That sort of way.
Well, when we go on our courses, and as an example, a few years ago we went on our A licence course together, the first thing that we did, if you remember, the first time we got on our grass was flick ons at their near post. And we just paid $5,000 each or whatever it was to go on this course. And the first thing he goes, looks at me, he goes, go on, big, and you get on the near post, and I'm flicking things on for 20 minutes. And that was me on the highest coaching qualification. I shouldn't have done that. But that was the rate of it. And actually, what they do is, and I'll be fairly critical here, I suppose, they ask you, so they go, well, what do you think of that? What is the right solution to that? What formation could you play? Not them going, well, no, actually, in a 4-3-3, this is how you do it, and this is the knowledge you're going to take away and impart to your club. They ask you the questions, and you become a problem solver, which is great, but you're not necessarily taking the philosophy that they want you to have to work with your young players.
I think, Joe, and I think as well, we don't look at coaching is you know, you're an educator, and there are so many things, and it's not a thing against pros, but you know, you go on courses and that, and if you're an ex-pro, it's obviously seems a lot easier for you to get qualifications. And I think it's got to be looked at. So obviously, if you've been a pro and you're a great coach, you're fantastic. It's a bonus. But there seems also this philosophy: you played the game, you're going to be a great coach, and it's a completely different skill set. You know, so. You know, I played the game to a decent level, didn't make it pro level, played semi-pro, but I would say my experiences, so the 10 years I spent away from football, running my own business and working in a high-pressured environment, are just as important to my job as a coach than the other stuff I did playing football for 30-odd years, because you learn so much how to deal with people, dealing with pressured environments, understanding that everyone, you know, it's the whole thing. And, you know, and sometimes I scratch my head. You know, you hear people, I won't mention names, on TV and go, he should get the job. Yeah. Why? Yeah. What? Because he kicked a ball?
I heard one talking about fast-tracking ex-pros who've just come out of the international game to become top coaches. And he was going, well, you know, Steven Gerrard or Neville or whatever, they just need to go and work with our best players straight away. And that straight away, they're skipping their own apprenticeship there. If you look at the Europeans there, you've got the Dutch guys, they go and work with the under-9s at Ajax before they go and work with the under-18s. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's not how we do it.
Well, as recent, Rio Ferdinand was one that done straight away. He said, I'd work with England.
Yeah.
Never managed, never coached,
exactly.
and wants to go. And they can't surely be the
I mean, don't get me wrong, he might be fantastic. I don't know, but there's no thought process behind it. And Jeremy said, and straight away we want to work with the higher age groups where, you know, again, we talk about development. The most important years are your under 8s, your under 9s, under 10, and we should have top quality coaches working with those younger age groups, but no one wants to do it, you know, and which is very different again.
We've got Rob Tuvey, well, right.
But we've got Rob Tuvey, who's fantastic. Yeah.
With this music, Stu, I think this week we need to call the game Poleon Going Live. Great show. Great
it
show.
Was, though.
Yeah. What was the name of Philip Schofield's co-presenter? Do you remember it? Was it...
Gopher, wasn't it? Philip the Gopher? No, that's something else, isn't it?
No, you might be right. No, I think Gordon the Gopher was on that show. But who was the female lady person?
Oh, Sarah Green?
That's right, Sarah Green.
Showing me age there.
You are indeed. But, yep, happy days of my youth and happy days of Stu's middle age from watching Going Live on a Saturday morning. Poleon Go this week, back to the usual routine after last week. And Stu, Dominic Poleon, he has travelled a long, long way from London this week. He's ended up at what he considers a mix of old and new sort of stadium, which has 2-tier stands on 3 sides. So he's quite impressed with the size.
2-tier stands on either side.
Or on 3 sides.
On 3 sides? Wow, I think.
3 sides? Do you know what I mean, though? Like 2 sides and 1 end, I suppose, for the pedantic amongst you.
I was going to say Bradford has got... Oh, no, actually, Bradford's got... Oh, no, he's got more than that. Let me go for a wild guess. Oh, crikey, I can't even think. I was going to say... No, I don't know.
You'll get it from the final clue, which is why I want to put that last as opposed to my middle clue, which is probably my favourite clue ever. Dominic was bored during the game, and he was working out one anagram. We're big on our anagrams this week on the show. An anagram of the stadium name, what it would be. And he worked out it would come out as Palavered Lay.
Palavered Lay. So it's something Lane, isn't it? Bramwell Lane? No,
there's no
Bramwell Lane.
Maybe I've not said it. There's no M in Palavered Lay.
I just thought I saw Lane and got carried away. It must be Lane. I don't know. Yep.
Okay, well, if you've not worked it out, if you've not figured it out from that, I will tell you that he has finished with the game. It was boring. He's gone home. He's had his Palavered Lay and all that business, and he's got on the train from the nearest station, Forster Square, and it's taken him all the way back to, I'm guessing, probably King's Cross.
Forster Square. Bear in mind, I don't go by train anywhere. Actually, no, I did lie. I did go to Forster Square. That rings a bell now.
You might have actually mentioned this team already from the first clue.
Yeah, what did I mention? I mentioned Bradford, didn't I?
You did.
That's quite. Bradford's not got. No, it has got a 1-tier because we sit in it.
There we go. So your answer, therefore, Stu, is
Bradford
City. Bradford City, indeed.
Forster Square rang a bell because I remember getting a train. I had one of the games. I did get a train to Bradford, and for some reason that rang a bell, but I couldn't remember where it was.
Do you know it's now called the Northern Commercial Stadium?
Really?
Yeah, Palavered Lay was an anagram of Valley Parade, but apparently the official name is the Northern Commercials Stadium. Northern Commercials, I'm guessing, are things like flat caps and whippets and stuff.
Joe, Bradford's actually one of our favourite, and to be fair, my fiancée Lorraine is one of our favourite grounds because it's one of the first grounds we went to. It's got the most horrendous car park. They charge you $5 to put your car on the most uneven dirt track. But she just loves Bradford, even though it's one of the furthest away games. She can't wait to go back. My
memories of Bradford are not particularly great, to be honest with you. I think I've been there twice. We've lost both occasions. A famous 3-0 defeat in the Premier League, a 3-1 FA Cup defeat, which was horrendously awful with a Crushbush comedy own goal. And then famously, I think the last time we went there in the league, we lost 6-2.
Yes.
No, we didn't. We lost
5-1. It was a weekend. It was the week of Burton Albion away. And then we had Burton. We lost 6-2 at Burton. And then 5-1?
5-1. Yeah. Quite how we scored 3 goals at that time, I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, Seb Brown was in goal, so I remember I got a pie. I thought, right, the game should start. I got up to the top. By the time I got to the top, turned around, and Seb has punched the ball straight to one of the players, and it was 1-0.
Right, this weekend, Swindon at home. Swindon Town, currently 20th in League One, level on points with the team in 21st. 1 win in 8 for Swindon. Not looking so great for them this season so far. No,
Swindon's quite interesting, actually. I was looking... Because if you remember, the last time we saw Swindon was when they were under Paolo Di Canio, spending lots of money, and I remember charging them £25 to get into Swindon, which I thought was a bit of a joke, and I still do. But yeah, looking back at them, They sold a couple of players in the summer. They sold Jose to Charlton for apparently reported £800,000, and I think they recuperated their fee back from Pompey for Michael Smith, who they paid $100,000 for. So they bought 3 players in for undisclosed fees. One of them is their goalkeeper, which I found really funny. I don't know if you remember hearing this story, but their goalkeeper, who is called Vigaro, he's actually from Liverpool. He was on loan last year at Swindon, but he actually had his loan terminated because he had a fine of £50, I believe, for being late, and he paid it in pennies. That's all you can do in Liverpool. Well, obviously, Liverpool is loads of places where you can find pennies from. Do you know what I mean? But he actually paid a fine, £50.
Penny Lane for one.
Hey, we're here all day. So yeah, he paid a £50 fine in pennies, and then his loan was terminated. But however, they've now got a 3-year contract. So interesting one. He's a decent goalkeeper. I think they paid quite a bit for him as well. But yeah, and they've also got Nathan D'Alfonso, who, for those of us who are a little bit on the older side, will remember he had a good under-21 career in under-21, but since then has dropped down all the leagues and finds himself at Swindon. Did you say Gerard Depardieu? Gerard Depardieu? No, D'Alfonso. Oh, okay. Anyway, prediction for the score? Prediction, I fancy us to keep our form going. Swindon have only won 1 away. They are 20th in the form table, and I think we will probably win. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win. Updates will be available on 9YRS Podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the usual channels, so keep an eye out for that. Before we go this week, goal of the month for September. The result is in. Unsurprisingly, and it's overwhelming again this month, so I'm not going to go through the scores because it was like 99.5% of all votes, did go to, well, Stu, if you don't know, have a guess. I believe it was a Charlton goal with Dominic Poleon. Dominic who? Poleon. Poleon. Don't ruin our game. I tell you, it doesn't work if we call him anything other than Poleon. Mr. Poleon, of course. Of course, he won overwhelming victory this week. So thank you very much again to Mark Hendricks, cuttingitfinefilms.com, for putting that video together for us. And Stu, Charlton away, that goal. What a day. Smashing day. Yes, thank you. Anytime. All right, that brings us to the end of this week's show. Next week, we will be broadcasting the second half of our interview with Mark and Jeremy, and we'll talk more about our time with them. But as I say, real pleasure. Could have spent another couple of hours in their company, to be honest with you. Next part of that comes next week. Keep an eye out on all our social media. As Stuart says, been very, very busy these past couple of weeks, especially on Facebook, with clips of our interviews with John Green, with Jeremy, with Mark, and obviously Stu appearing on Talk Sport. And there'll be more and more coming over the coming weeks. Thank you very much for joining us this week, Stu. Thank you very much for having me. Clearly over your withdrawal symptoms that you were suffering last week. I am, and let me just say thank you very much for everyone that prayed for me. I did appreciate waking up on Thursday morning and do such goodwill messages, so thank you all. They did do a good job, to be fair. Do not forget to join us next week. We'll be interviewing Will Young, and we're going to be discovering why he always seems to exit early. We'll see you then.